What's going on, everyone? Welcome to our Season 1 Ultimate Battle League post-draft analysis, as we will be diving into exactly why I drafted the Pokemon that I did draft, and how exactly we plan on going about beating our opponents this season. So if you guys are excited for this video, or if you just end up enjoying this video in any shape, way, or form, definitely leave a like as it goes far with supporting the channel, as well as subscribe if you are new so you don't miss any of the UBL battles when they do start on the 28th of January. So definitely get excited for that, as well as comment down below what you think of the team. It would mean a lot to get some opinions swirling and kind of pick your guys' brains on what exactly you think this team is capable of going into the season. So before we just hop into the draft analysis, there was just a few things that I wanted to speak about beforehand, and that is I wanted to first and foremost thank every single person that in any shape, way, or form has contributed to the UBL becoming what it is today. It's just so crazy to think that just a while back, I think maybe a little over a month ago, if that, I had this idea of wanting to make my own league. As if you are unfamiliar, I am actually the founder and one of the 3 commissioners of the UBL. So the fact that I just had this idea in my brain, went out, got a logo commissioned, and then from there we reached this point. We reached the point where we have all these wonderful coaches ready to tackle on each other in an amazing season, and we have all these different people who are interested in viewing the league, and we have analysis. That the fact that we've reached this point with this in such a short amount of time is just overwhelmingly amazing. I couldn't express my gratitude enough. I thank every single person that's contributed: the commissioners, the coaches, the fans, the the analysts, and definitely the graphic designers who have also helped us look decently presentable as we have ventured towards this point. Every single one of you, really, I appreciate what you've done for this league, reaching this point so much, and we wouldn't be here without you. So thank you all for the services you have provided towards the UBL becoming what it is today. I'm extremely grateful for that, and it's just amazing to see an idea become what it is now in such a short amount of time. Moving on from that, another thing I did want to speak a little bit about is how long it's actually been since we had draft format on our channel. The last league we were in was the Indigo Battle League, the IBL. We will have a chip on our shoulder considering leagues didn't choose us. I feel like I have the skills to compete against any level of talent in draft league format, and I can't wait to continue to showcase that in a league that has some bigger names than my previous leagues do. So it'll be fun to be able to battle against some people that have wider reaches in the Pokemon community. And then last but not least, it's just great to feel a decent bit more involved in the Pokemon community. I've already tried to record this video once and ended up being over an hour, so I am completely trying to avoid that. So let's just hop right into the draft analysis. So going into the Season 1 UBL draft, and quickly before I say that, we are actually debuted in our brand new franchise of the Southwest Survivors. We are retiring the Salaz and Salazzles. I saw a little too much hate going towards alliteration names, and as well as I just wanted to start fresh considering how long it's been. I just want to start fresh with a brand new franchise, and also have our mascot in the logo, and Bisharp is beautifully in that logo. So shout out to the graphic designer who did design that. Thank you for your work, and I'm excited to have a brand new franchise to just start out fresh in a brand new awesome league. But anyways, going into the draft, I did not have a plan. I didn't want to get too entrenched into a plan and then just get sniped, especially my first round pick. I thought whatever I'm able to get in the first round, I'll build off of that and we'll be perfectly fine, rather than trying too hard to figure out what exactly I wanted to do before I even know what's going to be available in the first round. It's like, let me build off of what I get in the first round and we'll be okay. So especially considering that I ended up with the 14th pick after we randomized all the coaches, and 14 out of 16, so I would have preferred to be 16 in one of the first 5, but 14 really isn't bad. It's just not the best for the first round considering how many strong Pokemon are already off the board. Pokemon like Blacephalon, Carol Black, Megalopan, Landorus, Therian were all already off the board, but that's perfectly fine because we still had some fire, and I mean that literally, left in the draft. And I'm extremely excited to use this Pokemon that I was fortunate enough to be able to draft in the first round. It's a Pokemon that I've absolutely hate building for, so that's great to not have to build against it. It's a Pokemon that I think is so overwhelmingly versatile, and I love versatile Pokemon. I definitely don't want my opponent to really feel like even if a Pokemon's really good, but it does something very one-dimensionally, I definitely don't want that. I want unpredictability to be a huge thing, especially for the captain of the team, and this is our captain. And last but least, I feel like this Pokemon has been used by so many battlers, ones that are well-known and ones that are little-known, and I feel like I have yet to actually see someone use it to its full potential. So I'm hoping we can actually reach that full potential with this Pokemon, and that is going to be none other than Victini, aka Vigilant. Victini is an amazing Pokemon. There's a plethora of reasons why I chose it. Of course, already mentioned was versatility. Victini has base 100 stats all around, so it is amazingly good as a mixed attacker or full-on special or full-on physical attacker. It can do all of those jobs extremely well, which means that it can run a plethora of different items well, such as Life Orb, Choice Specs, Choice Scarf, Choice Band, Air Balloon, Expert Bell if you don't want to chip your own health. There's a plethora of different items Victini can run well, and it's really nice. Next, Victini gets Switch Initiative, which is extremely good for a Pokemon that puts on this much pressure on a team. Typically, teams only have one actual answer to Victini, so if I can predict that the answer is going to come in, U-turn off of it, and then get into another one of my very hard-hitting attackers, that's going to be beautiful for continuing to put on offensive pressure against my opponent's teams throughout this season. And I really do like Switch Initiative in such a powerful Pokemon. That's extremely nice in my opinion. Next, Victini has a very unique typing of Fire Psychic. There's pretty much no other really offensive Fire Psychic types. You go to like Delphox, and I don't know what else Fire Psychic types there are, but Delphox is nowhere near the stratosphere of the Pokemon that Victini is. So it's a really awesome offensive typing. Obviously, it does give it a little bit of a weakness to Pursuit Trapping. However, though, I do think we have a very awesome team to support that, and a lot of Pursuit Trappers really don't want to switch in or stay in on a lot of very powerful attacks that Victini can unleash onto them, unless they're faster. That's a different scenario, but if they're faster, I can try to predict Choice Scarfs and just stay in and then not take the double damage that I would from a Pursuit. And then obviously Victini's ability is Victory Star, which multiplies its accuracy by 1.1, I'm pretty sure. Let me double check that. Yes, by 1.1, which means that its powerful attacks of Blue Fair, Bolt Strike, V-Create, all those moves have 100% accuracy, so you don't have to worry about missing them, which is why this Pokemon has never been allowed in VGC, because Blue Fair actually works for your allies as well, which would be extremely good in VGC. So I understand why Victini's never been allowed in VGC. Diving a little bit more into its moveset, it gets awesome moves such as Dazzling Gleam, Energy Ball, Final Gambit, Fire Blast, Fusion Bolt, Fusion Flare, and Fusion Flare actually does double. Its power doubles if it's used after Fusion Bolt, and same thing for Fusion Bolt, its power doubles if it's used after Fusion Flare, which is really awesome, really awesome there. It gets Grass Knot, it gets Light Screen, which is really cool. Power Up Punch if you want to start setting up and just if you're picking off an already weakened foe. Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, Taunt is really cool. Trick and Trick Room, which is some really cool support options. I definitely plan on using Trick Room at some point this season, so you'll have to wait and see which exact coach I feel we have a good Trick Room matchup against. And obviously U-turn, like I already mentioned, and V-Create. And then Will-O-Wisp and Zen Headbutt as some really awesome other options. And I think it gets maybe one of the, it gets Searing Shot as well. Yeah, so was that Parting Shot? I don't think so. What was that move? Yeah, Searing Shot. Yeah, so some really awesome moves that Victini does get to its disposal that I'm extremely excited to use this season. And Victini is our captain. It's going to be leading the way for us this season, and hopefully we're able to get a team that supports Victini well enough so that it can do its job of just taking life after life after life this season. So I'm excited to use Victini. So after choosing Victini, getting that versatile King Vigilant, I was like, next I want to get I really want to get a fairy type. I definitely knew that I also wanted to get Hydreigon, but I was so fixated on not missing out on a high tier fairy type, as once you get to tier 3 for fairy types, I do think there's a significant drop in the viability of those Pokemon, and they become much less one-dimensional, and that's exactly what I wanted to avoid. Oh, and another thing with Victini was the fact that it's a fire type. And literally the only league that I felt like I've performed very poorly in, other than barring the first league I ever joined, was a league where I had Magmortar as my fire type. I think fire is an often overlooked typing that is definitely really good if you can get a higher tier fire type. Fire types start to also drop off very easily once you get to those lower tiers. So I'm very glad that we have a higher tier fire type. Obviously, it does mean that one of our most dependable members is weak to rocks, but we will have that supported adequately for Victini this season. So we'll be perfectly fine. And supporting Victini in that way. Just fire is a typing that is really good, and I feel like it's definitely sometimes under prioritized to a fault. So next though, going into the draft, I wanted to make sure that I got a fairy type, and obviously, like I said, I did really want Hydreigon as well, because Hydreigon Victini is an amazing dual offensive core, especially because both of them get switch initiative in U-turn, so you can keep like U-turning and just keep your opponent on their toes as to when you're finally going to attack with those two. However though, I wanted to get my fairy first, so I was just hoping the Hydreigon would still be there in round 3, and the fairy type I ended up deciding on is a fairy type that I have already used in a previous league before, and I think it's absolutely amazing. And that fairy type is going to be none other than your fairy godmother, Wanda, aka Clefable. And Clefable's an amazing Pokemon. Clefable is very versatile, just like Victini. It gets rocks, it gets wish passing, it gets its own reliable recovery, it gets a plethora of offensive moves, and it does have really good stats as well. Its defense could be better. That is the one knock I have on Clefable, especially for our particular team. We're kind of a little defensively weak, so having a higher defense on Clefable would have been beautiful, but unfortunately it is only going to be base 73. However though, a base 95 HP stat, a base 90 special defense, and a base 95 special attack means that even uninvested, Moonblasts are going to be doing a lot of damage, and that the Clefable special defense stat paired with that HP stat, once it starts setting up Calm Minds, is going to be very overwhelming for teams that have a lot of special attackers. And then when you throw into the hat that Clefable also gets 2 amazing abilities in Magic Guard and Unaware. Unaware meaning that setup isn't the biggest issue for my team, considering that Clefable can just sit there and not take the increased damage from setup boost. And then Magic Guard will also allow Clefable to switch it on rocks and not take damage, to switch it on Toxic Spikes and not actually take the poison damage, or get Toxic and not take the poison damage. So Magic Guard is also an amazing ability in that right. So I really like the versatility of Clefable, especially Unaware. Unaware on such a good Pokemon is typically Quagsire is the only other Unaware Pokemon. While Quagsire isn't bad, it's easy to take advantage of with its times for weakness to grass, whereas Clefable is a bulky beast that doesn't have any like really easily exploitable weaknesses. Clefable will run a plethora of items really well. Mainly though, you'll typically see Life Orb as the item of choice that we will be using on Leftovers as item of choice will typically be using on Clefable, just to have that added residual recovery to Clefable's already very nice bulk. And then moving into the the moveset of Clefable, it gets so many awesome options. Clefable gets Counter, it gets Calm Mind, it gets Aromatherapy to support the team, obviously Aromatherapy and Heal Bell to support as a cleric to get away status on the rest of my team. It gets Fire Blast, Flamethrower, Focus Blast, Grass Knot, Healing Wish if I so choose, Ice Beam, Knockoff, which is really cool to have Knockoff on a Fairy type. You typically don't see Knockoff on many Fairy types, so to have Knockoff on Clefairy is Clefable is a really cool option, as I feel like Knockoff is easily one of the top 3 best moves in League format, standing there with like Stealth Rocks, as being able. Knockoff is so good in the fact that it is already like Dark is a really good offensive type, so to hit Dark wise is really good, but Draft League format is huge on information. You really need that information of what exactly the set your opponent's running. So if you can knock off their item, you can learn so much about their set, which is really crucial towards really gaining the needed information against your opponent. So that's really cool. Moonblast and Moonlight as other options. Moonlight's one of the recovery options next to Soft Boiled. We have Psyshock and Psychic, Shadow Ball, Signal Beam, Stealth Rocks like I mentioned already, Soft Boiled like I mentioned, Thunder Wave, and Thunderbolt. And Clefable's actually actually one of the best Thunder Wave users. I know that the accuracy of Thunder Wave has been dropped by 90%, which I am actually 100% fine with, as I definitely didn't like how overpowered Thunder Wave was. But we'll just be using Thunder Wave as a means of speed control, because we want to slow things down for Victini. Any way of slowing Pokemon down for Victini, as its base 100 speed set is good but not great, is going to be crucial towards letting Victini clean up teams once it comes to that point. And then Clefable also gets Trick, obviously Wish, like I've already mentioned. It gets Amnesia as a cool way of just really bulking up its special defense. Also gets, what else do we got here? Those are kind of the main ones. Fake Tears is also kind of an interesting option. Also gets, what else do we got here? I think that's pretty much the main gist. Yeah, that's the gist of the main moves that make Clefable into an amazing Pokemon, and I can't wait to use it. I think it'll synergize very well with the rest of the team. And like I said, I didn't want a lower tier Fairy type, and I like the fact that Clefable's form of recovery isn't dependent on Wish Protect. Clefable actually has its own form of reliable recovery, so if I feel like I don't really need to bring Wish Protect against one of my opponents, I can just allow Clefable to run its own form of reliable recovery and not have to just throw on Wish and Protect and then have to deal with my opponents maybe predicting that. But considering Clefable does have Unaware, trying to set up a Swords Dance when I'm going for a Protect with Wish really isn't going to be the most effective, will it? So that's really awesome there. So now moving on from there, round 3 starts to come around, and obviously I'm thinking Dragon type, Dragon type, Dragon type. I want Hydreigon. I absolutely want Hydreigon, and this is where Sirhawker, aka Dan, came through and sniped me so hard from Hydreigon. It hurt my heart, literally hurt my heart, but I can't blame him. Hydreigon's amazing, and I can't blame him for taking it. It really kind of messed up our draft a little bit though, especially I started scrambling a little, but I feel like we were still able to get an amazing Dragon type, because I didn't want to get a low tier Dragon type. Dragon type, just like Fairy, I do not want a low tier Dragon type. I feel like the drop from good Dragon types, really once you get to those lower rounds, it just really drops off, so I definitely didn't want to be in that pickle. And I feel like we were able to avoid that with our next pick, which is Goodra. Goodra is an amazing special defensive wall with a whopping 150 base special defense. Are you kidding me? Are you literally kidding me? That is amazing. Goodra will do an amazing job of being a special defensive wall for our team. Considering that, it does also have a 90 HP stat, which really isn't anything to scoff at, as well as 100 base attack and 110 base special attack. So Goodra is also a definitely offensive threat that definitely shouldn't be overlooked, especially considering it can run physical and special. So I really like the versatility of our first 3 picks. I feel like they're all extremely versatile in what exactly they'll run week to week, and I feel like being unpredictable in draft league format is a skill that is sometimes overlooked, as if you could have the best team, but if you're predictable in your moves, obviously you're still going to lose. So I not only think I'm already an unpredictable battler when it comes to draft league format and an unpredictable builder, but then when you give me Pokemon like Goodra, like Clefable, like Victini, it's just going to really allow me to showcase how unpredictable I can make these Pokemon but still effective throughout an entire season. Goodra also gets amazing abilities in Sap Sipper, which will allow us to be much more comfortable when it comes to spores and sleep powders. There's some really hard to take down Pokemon like Tangrowth and like Amoonguss that do get access to spore or sleep powder, so it'll be really nice to not really have to worry about that and just be able to switch in Goodra on them. They can't really do too much damage to Goodra at all, which is really nice. Those Pokemon can be a pain to deal with if you don't have a Pokemon like Goodra, so I'm glad that we won't be too concerned with that. And Goodra is actually also our Z-move captain, so it's also really nice that Tangrowth can't just go for a knockoff predicting our Goodra, as it won't be knocking off its Z-Crystal if I'm using the Z-Crystal that week. I definitely won't bring it every time I bring Goodra, or maybe I will, but I don't envision I will, but for the most part I will be bringing the Z-Crystal a lot. Goodra runs a lot of items well as well. It can run, it runs a lot of items well as well. Okay, that just came out weird, but it runs Assault Vest really well. It runs Choice Band well. Obviously, it runs Leftovers really well. Goodra can run a lot of different items well, so just because it's a Z-move captain doesn't mean that's all it's going to do, but I did make Goodra the Z-move captain because of the fact that Goodra is a formidable offensive threat, and it gets so many awesome moves. It gets moves like Draco Meteor, Dragon Tail, Earthquake, Fire Blast, Ice Beam, Outrage, Power Whip, Rock Slide, Focus Blast, Thunderbolt, Super Power, Sludge Wave, and Sludge Bomb. And yeah, it gets acid armor to make its defense stat a little bit better, which is actually a really cool option. It gets Iron Tail, it gets Muddy Water, it gets really Goodra has a very versatile move pool, and it also got Stomping Tantrum this generation, so a really versatile move pool. And I like that so much for Goodra because it's going to make it really hard for my opponents to know what to switch it on Goodra. Are you going to switch in your fairy type? And even if you're invested heavily in special defense, if I go for a Z Poison, they're probably not going to live that from a base 110 special attack Goodra. Are you going to switch in your Steel type, thinking I'm going to go for a poison type attack, predicting your fairy or predicting a dragon type move? I can go for a Z Flamethrower or Z Fire Blast and still get huge chunks of damage off on teams. I think Goodra definitely has the versatility and the move pool to warrant the Z Crystal. I think it's going to be an amazing Z Crystal mon. I do see a lot of coaches prioritize putting their Z Crystal on their really fast, hard-hitting attackers. However, though, I feel like Victini runs all these other items just so well that I wouldn't want to kind of hinder its ability to be as good as it can be by forcing it to have a Z Crystal. So I really like the Z Crystal on Goodra a lot more, and I feel like I used Heatran well as a Z Crystal mon, and it's a slower Pokemon, so I feel like we can definitely do the same with Goodra, and we don't just have to force the Z Crystal on one of our faster attackers, so that's really nice. So moving on from Goodra, at this point I was thinking I wanted to, I started looking at when am I actually going to get my fighting type. And my favorite fighting type in Draft League format is by far Minechow. I think Minechow, other than like Mega Lopunny, but obviously Mega Lopunny went before I even got my pick. So I love Minechow. I think Minechow is exactly what you want your fighting type to be. You want your fighting type to be decently fast. You want your fighting type to have switch initiative, and Minechow gets U-turn. And then you also want your fighting type to be hard hitting, and Minechow is all three of those. So I wanted a Pokemon that still was able to hit at least, for the most part, hit all three of those. Because unfortunately, the way I started looking at the rest of my draft, I was unfortunately not going to be able to draft Minechow and then still have like a cohesive draft that worked well together. So when round 4 came around, I did end up choosing Hawlucha, aka Libre. And Hawlucha is a Pokemon I'm extremely excited to use because I've never actually used it before in Draft League format, just like Goodra and just like Victini. But I've really never used Hawlucha much, even in singles either, just regular Samagan singles. So Hawlucha is going to be really fun. I know how strong it is, and I know how good it is at sweeping. So this also gets us our sweeper. Victini is more of the wall breaker, and then obviously Clefable and Goodra are more of a defensive synergy type Pokemon, and then Wanda is kind of our cleric with Clefable. It's more of our cleric and our wish passer. So we kind of needed our sweeper, and that's what Hawlucha is going to provide us with, an amazing ability of Unburden. When you go for that substitute, that second one, if you haven't taken any prior damage, you get your citrus, and then you can start really putting some pressure on teams with how fast Unburden will, because Unburden does boost your speed, it doubles your speed once you have consumed your item. So that's going to put Hawlucha at a ridiculous speed stats where we can start doing huge amounts of damage to our opponent's team. I do think Hawlucha is really good at what it does. It's really good. I feel like Hawlucha is where my team becomes a little bit more predictable in like what exactly it brings to the table and what exactly it's going to do, as Hawlucha is very much known as an amazing setup sweeper. That's just what it's known for. It's not really known for much else, but I actually think we'll be using Hawlucha in different ways throughout the season. I'm just glad that we were able to get our setup sweeper at this point, but Hawlucha gets a lot of amazing other moves. We did unfortunate for Hawlucha, we did disallow speed passing, so no agility baton passing will be happening. But Hawlucha also gets bulk up. It also gets swords dance, so we can definitely still baton pass those moves into our other threats and put on a lot of pressure on our opponent's team. Hawlucha also gets access to moves such as Defog, which is an interesting option if I so choose to run it one week. It gets acrobatics, which is obviously one of the main moves that works well with Unburden, because you consume the citrus, now you don't have an item, and then acrobatics does ×2 the damage, as it typically does 55, but then it'll do 110. It gets access to Fire Punch, access to obviously High Jump Kick. Hone Claws is another really interesting move that I can baton pass or just use for Hawlucha. It gets Iron Head and Poison Jab for those very pesky fairy types that Hawlucha may have trouble dealing with. It gets Rock Slide. It gets you can even run a what is it called, a Mental Herb Sky Attack set, so that it can go for an extremely powerful Sky Attack, which does 140 damage. So that's really cool as well. It gets Rue, so that's really nice for the longevity of Hawlucha. It does get Superpower, Stone Edge. What else? We got Tailwind here, which is also I will definitely bring Tailwind, because I need Speed is a huge thing for this team. I need Victini. If I can make Victini faster and make my opponent slower, that's huge for Victini. So Tailwind is definitely an option we'll be using. It gets Taunt as well. Obviously, it gets U-Turn, which I said Mindshell has, Hawlucha has. I love the switch initiative on fighting types. And then it gets Zen Headbutt. And those are the main. It gets dual chop as well, which is an interesting option maybe for some dragon types if there's a predicted dragon type that I know is going to come in. But yeah, really nice for Hawlucha. So many really nice options that I like a lot on Hawlucha, and I think it'll be an amazing setup sweeper for us. It brings that speed stat that I really wanted to have. I needed a really fast Pokemon. 118 is extremely fast, and Hawlucha's HP of 78, base HP stat of 78 really isn't that bad. 92 attack leaves a little bit to be desired, but Hawlucha's so good at setting up that it's really not the worst. So I'm excited to use Hawlucha this season and to hopefully wear down my opponent's team and then allow Hawlucha to just clean up after everything's been worn down. So I'm excited for Hawlucha to be our setup sweeper this season. Next, we go right into our round 5 pick, and at this point I was thinking, alright, I was sniped of the dark type, which was Hydreigon previously, but what I really need now is I still really need a dark type. Considering that I do have Victini now, which is a offensive psychic type, I have Hawlucha, which is offensive fighting type, and now I want to get a dark type so I can have that really awesome underrated core of psychic fighting dark. It's definitely really underrated, and I feel like it's going to put so much pressure on my opponent's teams. As I was looking around, I didn't really know. At this point, I was kind of trying to decipher what I wanted as a mega, because initially I really want to make a Sable as a mega to really detour or like to really kind of make my opponents not want to set up hazards against my team with Mega Sableye Magic Bounce. However, though, the more I looked at my team, the less Mega Sableye made sense, and the fact that it just didn't exert enough offensive pressure, and I needed a more offensive dark type. So once round 5 came around, I did end up deciding on, and it was deciding between it and Mega Gyarados, but it easily won because I wanted a different water type, was Mega Absol. And Mega Absol is going to be an amazing Pokemon this season because of its overwhelmingly amazing stats. Obviously, its defense and special defense of base 60 leave a lot to be desired. This Pokemon is frail. However, though, the offensive stats are spicy as heck. Mega Absol having a 150 base attack stat, 115 base special attack, and 115 base speed. It hits hard. It hits absurdly hard with 115 attack stat. It hits fast, and it's versatile with being able to go special or physical. Once again, another very versatile Pokemon, which seems to be a very nice theme of this team that we do have now, and I feel like it's going to work to our advantage so well. Absol also gets Baton Pass, so we can go for some Calm Minds Baton Pass. We can go for some Swords Dance and Baton Pass. So really nice to have that. Mega Absol gets so many good moves such as Dark Pulse, Fire Blast. It gets a lot of really good special moves, Foul Play, but Mega Absol is going to give us what I really wanted in a very offensive dark type, because I feel like, once again, knockoff is such a good move. So if you got a very strong knockoff user, you're not only going to do heaps of damage when you're knocking off your opponent's item, but you're also going to get that information on what their item is as well, and obviously not allow them to have it anymore. So that is going to be amazing to have such a powerful knockoff coming off that base 150 attack stat. Then Absol gets other really cool moves such as Hex, such as Night Slash, Mega Horn. We have Ice Beam. We have Play Rough, which is really nice to have on a dark type. Psycho Cut, Pursuit for Pursuit trapping some of my opponent's psychic types. Rock Slide, Shadow Ball, Shadow Claw, Stone Edge, Sucker Punch for priority, because at this point we don't have really any form of priority, so it's really nice to have Sucker Punch, especially on a Magic Bounce user, which means my opponent can't just predict my Sucker Punch and go for a Toxic. That won't work because Magic Bounce will just bounce it back on my opponent. So Magic Bounce is an amazingly cool ability, and actually as a regular Absol also gets Justified. So if I can actually switch in Absol on a very easily to predict dark type move, we can get that Justified boost and just sweep my opponent's team with a +1 Absol if it's already at that point where the team's a little bit worn down. So that's really nice as well. And then it gets moves such as Superpower, Thunderbolt, T-Wave, Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, which is really cool to have on Absol. It even gets Wish, which I may use as a really cheeky move at some point. X-Scissor, and Zen Headbutt. So that's really cool. And those are just so many really good options on Mega Absol. So I like it a lot. And I can't wait to use Mega Absol Absol. I think it's going to work so well with Victini and Hawlucha as that psychic fighting dark core, and it's just going to, and they all have really good speed stats. Victini not so much, but still good, definitely really good and serviceable, so they're going to put so much pressure on my opponent's team, and I like it a lot. So that's Mega Absol. Next, at this point, I was thinking, all right, I definitely need hazard removal for Victini. We need hazard removal. We can't wait, and I need a rapid spinner. I'm not the biggest fan of defog, considering it gets rid of your own hazards, as well as defogs. It can be capitalized on by some Defiant Pokemon and Pokemon like Melodic. I just want to try to avoid that as much as possible. So what Tentacruel is going to bring to the table is Tentacruel is going to be our oh, I didn't even give it a proper announcement. Round 6 is going to be Tentacruel, aka Medusa, and Absol was Pandora, aka Mega Absol. So what Tentacruel is going to bring to the table is an amazing, and I mean an amazing rapid spinner. I think Tentacruel is another Pokemon that I've seen used, but I haven't seen used to its full potential, because it actually has really good stats. Tentacruel has an 80 HP stat. It has an 120 base special defense, which is nice with the 80 HP stat. Obviously, its defense of 65 leaves a little bit to be desired, but then we do have a 100 speed stat, which is really nice on a Pokemon that's more so supposed to be defensive like Tentacruel, and then an 80 special attack stat. So all of those are really cool on Tentacruel. It really gives it some really cool option. Clear Body is cool. I don't know how much we're going to be able to use it effectively. I'm hoping we can maybe use Liquid Ooze as well. If there's like some predicted Pokemon that I know is going to try to go for Giga Drains on our team, maybe we can have Liquid Ooze, and then they'll take the damage that they would have gained back from us, which would be pretty cool. Tentacruel can run a lot of items well, but mainly we'll typically see Black Sludge on it, so it can get that residual recovery, considering it doesn't have any form of reliable recovery. But I'm very content with Tentacruel. It is unfortunate that it amplifies our ground weakness paired with Victini, as its poison typing does mean it is weak to ground. However, though, I wanted a poison type for Toxic Spikes hugely, because I feel like hazards are going to be an easy way of wearing down my opponent's team, so then our core of Victini, Hawlucha, and Mega Absol can then wear down teams once they're worn down. Toxic Spikes and Stealth Rocks from Clefable or our other Stealth Rocker are going to be huge towards wearing down our opponent's team, so I definitely wanted to make sure that I got a very solid T-Spiker, and that's what Tentacruel is. And I also didn't want T-Spikes to be too big of an issue for our team, as I have underprepared for T-Spikes before. I actually had a Tentacruel destroy my team one time, and I definitely will never want that to happen again. But yeah, T-Spikes can be very, very hard to deal with if they're underprepared for, so I really like the option of T-Spikes, and obviously having a poison type that can suck them up on our end. Tentacruel also gets some really cool options, such as Acid Spray, such as Dazzling Gleam, such as Venoshock, which is really cool when you couple that with T-Spikes. Everything's poison, and then you can start going for Venoshocks, and it typically only does 65 damage, but then when they're actually poison, it does double that damage, so then 130 damage, which is amazing. You can run some decent amount of speed with Acid Spray, so you can do some really good damage to your opponent's Pokemon, as Acid Spray does lower their special defense by 2. Tentacruel is another Pokemon that gets access to Knockoff on our team, which is amazing. It also gets Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, Dazzling Gleam, like I said, Giga Drain. It gets obviously Rapid Spin, Reflect, Scald, Sludge Bomb and Sludge Wave, Surf, Toxic Spikes, like I already mentioned. Yeah, Tentacruel gets some really awesome options. It's going to be a key member of our team this season, and I definitely wanted to already start to get our water type to go with Victini for our Fire, Water, Grass core, so that's really nice as well. And Tentacruel also, one thing I forgot to mention with Clefable was the fact that Clefable actually does get dual screens, so you can even run a Light Clay dual screens Clefable, which opponents probably definitely would not be expecting, so that's also a really cool option. But yeah, that's going to be Tentacruel bringing a lot of support to the team, but also going to be a low-key, a kind of underprepared for offensive threat, I'm hoping, so that's really, really awesome, and I can't wait to use Tentacruels. I really need its T-Spikes to wear down my opponent's team, so then the rest of my team can sweep. So now though, I need some water, so I'm gonna go grab some water and I'll be right back. Now, moving into the last half of the team, the final 5 members of the team, I had a lot that I still needed to get accomplished with this team. At this point, you can realize that I still don't have a Steel type, I still don't have a Ground type, I still don't have an Electric type, and I don't also have a Grass type. Those are kind of key types that I really needed to get, and then I also still wanted some offensive members that I can still rely upon to put on some good pressure onto my opponent's team. I really didn't want my team to be too passive for my opponents. So going into round 7, round 7. Going into round 7, I was thinking I cannot miss out on this Pokemon. I need this Pokemon because it provides me with two crucial typings that I definitely need, as well as if I don't get this Steel type, I'll end up going extremely low for a Steel type, and I didn't want a Kling or anything like that. Steel is too good of a typing to have a bad Steel. I could have a good Steel or a subpar Steel, but definitely not a bad Steel. So my round 7 pick is going to be none other than Steelix, aka Jawsum, and Steelix is going to be a key member of this team because of the fact that it is a Steel ground type, so it'll help us not just get volt switched all over when it comes to my opponent's electric types, and it also will provide us with the amazing resistances that Steel types do provide with. It is also amazing that Steelix has a whopping 200 base defense stat with a 75 base HP, which is really nice. Excuse me. Unfortunately, it does suck that it also is a part of our ground weakness, so that really sucks that our main defensive wall is also weak to ground as well. So it makes ground definitely a decent option against my team. We have plenty of ways that we're going to go about dealing with that. As Hawlucha is currently our only immunity, and we currently still don't have a resistance at this point, but I definitely needed Steelix. Couldn't go any lower than Steelix for a Steel type, so I made sure to get it at this point in round 7. Steelix, it runs a lot of items well. It can run a Soul Vest, it can run Melee, it will have leftovers, but it can run Life Orb, it can run a decent bit of items well. It is going to only have a base 85 attack stat, which leaves a decent bit to be desired, but it's definitely not bad. And then Steelix is also going to be a rocker, which is really nice for Clefable. I definitely don't want to run rocks on Clefable every single week, so it's really nice that we can run it on Steelix and then still get that residual damage on our opponent's team with Stealth Rocks. Steelix also gets some really interesting moves such as Aqua Tail, Crunch, Dragon Tail, Earthquake, Explosion, Fire Fang, Gyro Ball, and Heavy Slam, so it'll depend on what I'm attacking as to what I want to run there. Ice Fang, Rock Blast, Rock Slide, Stone Edge, Stealth Rocks like I already mentioned, Taunt, which is really cool. So definitely some really cool options on Steelix that I can't wait to use. It even got Stomping Tantrum this generation as well. So definitely some really cool options on Steelix that I feel like we'll be able to use to our disposal really well. And Steelix is going to be a key member because once again that typing is just so crucial for our team, and its defensive stat really does help patch up our kind of weak defense as of this point of the draft. So Steelix will be a key member of the team, and it also does get some good abilities in Sheer Force, which gives 1 point times power to moves with secondary effects, but it nullifies the effects, which isn't an issue. It'll make Steelix more of a formidable offensive threat, which I like, and then Sturdy as well. If I feel like Steelix just really needs to get up rocks, it can live with Sturdy, which is definitely still a good option to have for Steelix. So that's really nice. So moving on from Steelix, we do get into our round 8 pick, and I'm pretty sure 8, 9, 10, 11, yes, we get into our round 8 pick. And at this point I actually got a lot of help from my assistant coaches at this point, Salty Jack and Lejon Flames. They helped me a lot with making sure that I did the end part of this draft correctly because once again Sirhawker, aka Dan, he sniped me on Gourgeist, which was very unfortunate, but I really wanted Gourgeist. It would have really helped with our defense, as we would have had a solid defensive Pokemon that would have got that grass typing, and it would also got priority with Gourgeist, and we would not have been it really would have helped our ground weakness. It really would have been nice. However, though, he sniped us for it, so more reason as to why Dan needs to go down when we play him this season. But my coaches helped me figure out that aesthetic, because I kept looking at Electrode as the electric type I wanted, and that I would fish for a higher tier of a different typing, but my coaches made me realize that getting a better electric type would be better for me, and I'm actually really grateful that we ended up making that decision, because of the fact that I not only have a lot of experience with this electric type, but I think fast electric types, especially good ones, not just some plain fast electric type like Electrode. I don't think Electrode's really good at all. It literally just has the volt switch going for it. An actual fast electric type like Heliowith, aka Shazam, is going to bring so much to the team, and I'm so excited to be using Heliowith because Heliowith has an amazing move pool. It's such an underrated move pool that Heliowith has to its disposal. So many cool moves that you can use, and then obviously Heliowith can run Choice Specs, Choice Scarf, Life Orb, Expert Bell. It can run a lot of really cool items well. Air Balloon. It can run a decent bit of items well, and I really love the ability that Heliowith gets in Dry Skin. No other electric type gets Dry dry skin, and that is so awesome that you can bring in your electric type, which is the best way to threaten out bulky water types in on a water type and disallow them to just spam Scald against your team. Disallowing Scald spam will be so nice for Steelix longevity in the long run, as Steelix is weak to water. Helios can just come and be like, nope, you're not going for a Scald on Steelix, it's not happening, which is really cool. I like that so much. It's going to put a lot of pressure on water types, which I like a lot. Helios is actually, I never understand why this Pokemon is always there in the later rounds when it comes to electric types. This is the second time where I've waited to the 8th round or later to pick up Helios onto a draft. I don't know why people don't prioritize getting this thing more. Obviously, its defenses, its special defense really isn't that bad, but its defense and its HP stat of 62, not bad, but could be a lot better, but its defense leaves a lot to be desired. But a special attack of 109, a speed of 109, and then special defense of 94 base, those are all really good and very usable. And then electric normal is actually a really interesting typing that I think is going to be really cool to use this season, and I'm excited to use it. And then we can dive into some of these moves Helios gets, like Dark Pulse, Dragon Tail, Focus Blast. It gets Glare, which is nice for slowing down some switch-ins to Helios. Grass Knot, Hyper Voice as well, so Stab, Normal, which not a lot of things resist. What else do we got here? We do got Quick Attack, definitely not the best priority though. I won't really be using that. What else do we have? We have Thunderbolt, obviously, and Volt Switch, obviously, and then U-Turn, which is also a really cool option so that we can still get that switch initiative. If my opponent has a very good switch into Helios, a very good ground switch into Helios, we can just go for U-Turn instead and then still get that switch initiative. And then Surf is a really cool option on an electric type. Pretty much no other electric types get Surf, so that's really cool to have that, so that we can really capitalize on those ground types that do want to switch in. So Helios is an amazingly cool Pokemon that is can definitely be unpredictable, and I love the options it gets. And I also didn't mention Grass Knot or Light Screen, so those are also some really cool options, and I very much so think Helios will be a very awesome part of the team. Next, I was thinking I needed another really offensive Pokemon, but I definitely needed a Pokemon that had a strong priority move. And I feel like that's definitely what the team was missing at this point. So once round 9 did come around, I did end up deciding on Zangoose, aka Scarface. And Zangoose is obviously going to double up on the normal typing, which I don't really feel is too big of an issue, because I feel like fighting is actually one of the typings that we have the best switch-ins for. Plenty of good switch-ins in for fighting, so I'm not too concerned about that unless it's like an extremely offensive fighting type, as obviously Steelix is our main defensive wall, and it is weak to fighting, so it can be a little bit of an issue, but not the worst. And Zangoose is an amazing offensive attacker because of Toxic Boost. Toxic Boost is going to allow Zangoose to have a 1.5 boost to its physical attacks, which is amazing, and Zangoose can run so many items well, but mainly you'll stick to the Toxic Orb so you can ensure it gets the Toxic Boost. So Zangoose is going to have really cool options though, of close combat. What else do we got here? We got close combat, we have Fire Punch, we have, let's see, Ice Punch, we have Knockoff, another knockoff user, which is great, Poison Jab, Night Slash, Power Up Punch, so if we want to pick off a weakened foe, get attack boost and then still keep going. It does get Swords Dance as well, and that'll start to do heaps of damage to teams. We got Shadow Claw, we have Taunt, another Taunt user, which is really cool once again. It gets T-Wave, which is an interesting option, X Scissor, and Thunder Punch, so definitely some really good moves that Zangoose does have to its disposal. And then it does get that really strong priority move and quick attack with the Toxic Boost, so that's what I was definitely looking for. And its stats are really nice. A base 115 attack stat is definitely nothing to scoff at, especially once it gets that 1.5 boost from Toxic Orb. That's going to do so much damage. An HP stat of 73 really isn't terrible, but it can be better. All of its defenses are its defense of 60 and special defense of 60 definitely leaves something to be desired, but then a speed of 90 really isn't bad either. So definitely a really awesome Pokemon, and I love that we were able to snag some priorities. We definitely needed priority at this point, so I'm glad we're able to snag that. So next on the list is actually going to be, at this point I wanted another offensive attacker, and I really wanted a Levitate user. I wanted one Pokemon that, let's say my opponent brings some Scarf ground type. I wanted to have a Pokemon that I don't necessarily want to switch in on a Scarf Ground type, but that if it takes out one of my Pokemon, I can then switch it in at that point and disallow Scarf Ground from just being spammed against my team. So I really wanted a Levitate user, so that leaned me towards getting Hunter, aka Shadow, at this point. And Hunter is going to be a key member of this team. I already heard some things from the power rankings. We were ranked 6. I already heard some things about how Hunter won't really be used, and that's not that good. Hunter's actually going to be a good Pokemon for us this season. It'll provide spin blocking, it'll provide the Levitate, which we really needed to go along with our 1 immunity and then our 1 resistance we're going to have, because our grass type is going to be our next pick. And Hunter's a cool Pokemon. It gets so many cool options. It can run so many items well. Eviolite, it can run decently well. It's still not going to be the most bulky with an Eviolite, but definitely a decent bit bulky. It can run Choice Specs, it can run Choice Scarf, especially with Trick's Choice Scarf and Choice Specs is going to be a really cool option. It can run Life Orb. Some really cool options for Hunter. And then it gets a really diverse move pool, because pretty much it's Gengar but just the lower form of it. So it does get Dark Pulse, Dazzling Gleam, Destiny Bond, Disable, Energy Ball. What else do we got here? We got Giga Drain, we got Hex, which is really cool once again with the Toxic Spikes. We got another knockoff user. We have what else do we have here? Pain Split is an interesting option. We got Psychic, Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb and Sludge Wave, which is really cool to have. It does get Sucker Punch as well, so more priority, which is cool. Another taunt user, Thunderbolt, Trick, like I said, Trick Room, which once again another Trick Room user is cool, because I definitely plan on using Trick Room this season. And then Will-O-Wisp as an option, so definitely Icy Winds, definitely some really cool options on Hunter. And I love what it's going to provide this team with, because it allows us to not just get thrashed by a Scarf Ground types if our like resistances and immunities are already weakened or gone. It allows us to not just get thrashed by them, because Hunter can switch in after something goes down, and then it can threaten it out. So that's really cool, and I like having a Levitate user a lot. I definitely thought getting a Levitate user would be key, but one that was still viable to actually offer the team with something, and that's exactly what Hunter does for our team. And then last but definitely not least, a very key member of our team is going to be none other than our grass type, which is going to be Lurantis, aka Orchid. And Lurantis is going to be a very key member of our team because of the fact that we have that ground weakness, so having a grass type is going to be huge. Lurantis actually has some underappreciated stats, as Lurantis is going to have a 90 defense stat and a 90 special defense stat, which isn't bad, coupled with a base 70 HP stat. It really isn't bad at all. And then you factor in that it has a 105 attack stat, which really isn't bad. Lurantis can run a lot of items well, but it mainly will be having the leftovers. It also is a decent cleric with aromatherapy, which is really cool. It gets defog, so this couples so that all the pressure isn't on Tentacruel to get rid of hazards, which is really nice. I like having another option. Unfortunately, it isn't rapid spin, it is defog, but we'll use it well. And then it gets options like it does get Energy Ball, it does get Giga Drain. Lurantis gets knockoff as well, so another knockoff user. Lurantis gets Leaf Storm, and when you couple this with its ability of Contrary, that's really cool, because Contrary, what stats would be lowered, instead they are raised. So Leaf Storm minus is 2 on your special attack stat, instead it'll be raised by 2. That's a really cool option to make Lurantis not so passive as an offensive threat. Honestly, that's really cool. So you can be ran special or physical. It gets options such as Night Slash, Poison Jab, Seed Bomb, Signal Beam, Superpower, another way of allowing Lurantis to use Contrary to its benefit. Superpower will be the main form of offensive move I'll be using, so we can get that boost in attack and defense, so we can really make Lurantis into a more formidable defensive threat. Then it does get its own form of reliable recovery and synthesis, and then it gets X Scissor as well. So definitely some really cool options on Lurantis. I think it's definitely slept on as a defensive grass type, and I think we'll be able to use it well this season. I love that it does get hazard removal. Even if it is defog, it's good to not have all the pressure on Tentacruel as our hazard remover. So that's going to be our team this season. Once again, just to cover the team, it's going to consist of Victini, Clefable, Goodra, Hawlucha, Mega Absol, Tentacruel, Steelix, Heliolisk, Zangoose, Hunter, and Lurantis. I'm very excited to use this team. I definitely think we have some awesome options, and if we have to make some transactions throughout the season, we may. I don't really feel like it'll be necessary though, because I feel like we covered a lot of what we needed with this draft, and I'm just excited to use it. The main issue is our defense, but we'll be fine on the defensive end. I promise you guys, we'll be fine, and we'll find a way to power through our opponent's teams. Let me know what you think of the team yourself, as I think the team is going to be really fun. Z captain is going to be Gudra. Team captain is going to be Victini. And we just have so much offensive power. It's going to be so much fun just powering through opponents' teams. And then using all these versatile options that we do have, as Victini's versatile, Clefable's versatile, Gudra's versatile, Mega Absol's versatile. Healwish has some really interesting options. And then Hunter, I feel like, has some interesting options as well. So it's going to be so much fun. I feel like this is the first team I've ever drafted that I see myself using every single Pokemon throughout the season. There's not one Pokemon that I'm like, I'm never going to bring. Because in my last draft in the IBL, I had like Regice. I never brought Regice. I had like what else did I have? I brought Mr. Mime once. I had some Pokemon that I never brought, and this is the first draft I've ever had where I feel like at some point I promise I'll bring every single one of these Pokemon. So that's going to be absolutely amazing, and I'm just so excited that this is the team that the Southwest Survivors get to debut with. So let me know once again. Let me know in the comment section what you think of the team. Smash that like button if you did enjoy the video and me going over everything, and definitely support your Southwest Survivors going into season 1 of the UBL. Once again, week 1 battles will start on January 28th, so get some hype. We're going up against SareneGrace and her Chicago Salmon Sky in week 1. So get hype, guys. Link to all coaches in the description below, as fan Discord as well, and the fan document that you guys can check out as well will be in the link below. I'll see you guys though in week 1 of the UBL. You may see my face again, but more than likely you won't see me until week 1 of the UBL with more information with using this team. So I'll see you guys then. For now, this is Token signing out. Peace.